Okay. All right. Well, we're live. And I need to click this button next. Okay. We are good to go. Okay. So, last time we were at this. Last time we opened up this map, we had one heck of a doozy. Hello, friendly chess piece. Last time we opened up this map, I thought I had like all night to just spend drawing it, and I in fact did not. I had about 40 minutes. Ricardo, hello, welcome. Yes, I have a new avatar. I have longer hair now, and I thought I needed I needed to update. The world needed to know, because I plan on growing it out even more between now and Gen Con. So I thought, well, let's make sure people know what I look like. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I have taken to wearing like Hawaiian shirts, tropical shirts. I like them, and the best part is the really super polyester ones don't need that much ironing, so I can kind of like be pretty lazy about it. And there's a long tradition of wearing these kinds of shirts in the TTRPG industry, so it's kind of a fun little nod back to that. It's actually a really interesting article someone wrote about like tiki culture, kind of like being around, coming up at around the same time that the people who were working on the war games that would turn into role-playing games were coming up. So interesting stuff. Claymore, greetings from Norwich, England. Glad I am able to catch a stream. Well, we're glad you're here. James, hello. Thank you so much for the kind words on the videos. I'm looking forward to getting back to making more of them this summer. I have some humdingers I've been thinking about for a long time, but we gotta finish up this semester. Just 2 more weeks, turn in some final grades, and then a whole week of meetings, and then finally I'll have all the time that I need to work on videos and catch up on freelance work. My goodness. So what we are doing, for those that are not aware, I have this big map that I am working on right here. So while I have an idea of a new structure that I want to add to the map, but I'm going to wait a little bit before I get into that. It's JP. I'm making a lot of writing progress. This Saturday you are going to get an avalanche of writing. So prepare yourself. I'm very happy with it. And hello, Thunderwolf. Thunderwolf 4. Sorry, from the long line of Thunderwolves. Is it Thunderwolf 4 or Thunderwolf the 4th? Okay, so like I said, I have an idea for some structures that I want to add to this. But in the meantime, I am just going to draw some more mountains, just to kind of warm up and make sure that we are not just sitting here talking. Ugh. Can you imagine sitting around for a whole stream and just watching somebody talk about things? Oh, my goodness. Yes. I can't wait. Having lots of fun, JP. Having lots of fun. So yeah, I have been have you all Luca again says, "Hey, what's up? I didn't know you streamed." It's something I've recently started doing, and it's fun. I enjoy it. I still haven't quite made up my mind if I want to try to build a Twitch following instead, just because it's a different vibe over there. And I like the idea of like finding other people who are drawing cool stuff and being able to like, you know, kind of be a community. Because I really like YouTube for a lot of things, but a community it ain't. It's for the most part you're kind of like it's you making videos kind of like by yourself, and you're siloed off, and then if you get to talk to other people, it's because you kind of go out of your way, versus like the cool thing on Twitch is you can do raids and kind of like, I don't know, it just feels more like I hear people over there saying like, oh, hey, how was your stream? Because it's all about, it's not primarily like a video thing, it's a live streaming thing, so it's just a different vibe over there. But who knows? I look at the art tab when I'm browsing there, and I think it's a very, very different than when you look at the artists that are doing stuff on Twitch. It doesn't necessarily look like what I'm doing, so maybe it's not a great fit. Who knows? Sebastian Legrand. Hello. Hello to France. To all of France, not just you, Sebastian. But especially to you. Okay. So yeah, we'll give folks some time to figure out if they want to find out about the stream or not. And then we'll get to the meat and potatoes of what we're doing. Although, you know what would be kind of fun? What if... Have you guys heard about the clown worm? Have I told you about the clown worm? I love this thing. I'm working on some monster drawings, and this one makes me really, really happy because it's one of the grossest, weirdest things I've ever thought of, and I have some more thoughts about it. It's percolating. Patrons are going to find out about it as I kind of like figure out what the shape of what this is. What this project is, but yep, new haircut. Thank you, Rocket Bottle. No, Sebastian. Thank you so much for the kind words on my map work. That means a lot to me. That's how I kind of started working on things. But I like to draw all kinds of things. JP hates it, so it means it's working. It means I get immediately a. So yeah, the fun thing is this. He has this. This is actually like a horn that kind of like drills out the top of the skull. So it's the party horn, and you know when the clown worm is fully mature, when its party horn grows out. But this is fun because for a long time, you know, all the drawings I've been doing for RPGs have all been traditional media, so it's really fun to kind of like, oh wow, yeah, it's the digital tools and kind of working this way and kind of like working up to some more painterly rendering style. This is still very comic booky, but it's fun nonetheless. Yeah, welcome, Catherine. Yes. So yeah, this is there's going to be more about this project, but I still have so many ideas of like what eventual form this is going to take, and probably eventually I want to do a video about it and everything like that. So no spoilers Just no spoilers, just smiles. All right. Mercifully, I have switched back to my map drawing work. But needless to say, I am really enjoying drawing digitally. It's been fun. And I'm not saying I'll never go back to traditional media. I think if I want a very specific look, like if I wanted to use dry media or wet media for specific things, I'm probably always going to, like if I want a watercolor look, I doubt I'm ever going to think, oh, well, I should just use some watercolor brushes on Photoshop. I'll just use watercolor. But I also think that if I just need some texture, if I don't need watercolor specifically, then probably I will just use brushes and things like that. It kind of really depends on the project. One thing I don't like, this undo button is causing me problems. So it gives me a chance to micromanage, which I think is rarely a good use of my time. Rarely a good use of my time to undo this and redo that and get that perfect. But it's already a reflex. It's just the nature of the beast, so to speak. It's not so bad. You just don't want to get stuck in a vicious cycle where you're just like, I'll know the perfect line when I see it, right? You want to have a goal. You don't want to retry it too many times. It's just, ain't nobody got time for that. Okay. Got to get me a clown worm. That's a sweet, sweet horn. Yeah, heck yeah, Catherine. Thank you. Sam is saying, want to piss off your GM? Pronounce a manticore like hickory. Hickory? How would you... how would you say that? Okay, so you would say... Manticore? That is... very funny to me. Yeah, I like that a lot. Manticore. Manticore. Who knows? It could be from a Latin language. It certainly isn't. We know it's not, but still. Ricardo, I love digital drawing mostly because of layers and blending modes. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do. For someone who is autistically fastidious, it's nice to just be able to draw digitally and know that I can always trash it without destroying my supplies. That's true. Although I like being able to just commit to it. Kind of the big chance. Hey, it's Isaac. Hello, Isaac. Good to see you. But yeah, I do like the commitment that you get with traditional media. It adds a tension that keeps things interesting. It's always a surprise. Probably need to turn down the music a little bit here. Let's see. Gotta love that undo spamming 30 times. Yes, definitely. What color craziness did I see on the thumbnail? That was wild. Oh no, did the thumbnail choose the clown worm? It's this is what you saw. But we're not here to talk about this. Don't try not to look directly into its eyes. That's how it spreads. That it's important that you don't look too long into its eyes. I really need, I need all, listen, I know it's colorful and I know it's friendly and everything, but do not look, it's what it wants. And it's very dangerous. The longer I need to get rid of this. I can't keep this on. It's dangerous. And I'm sorry, I've put you all in grave danger by allowing you to see its eyes like that. But yeah, Thunderwolf is saying, I still can't get my head around painting digitally works. Layers confuse me, and expanding the canvas too. Yeah, it's true. It is definitely something to get used to, but it's you don't have to use layers. A lot of the students that I teach at my school, they use too many layers, and it doesn't help them do anything. It just makes it impossible to figure out what changes are. I try to keep as few layers as possible. So yeah, if you can kind of like break yourself of that habit, you will probably be more productive and happier and live longer and a more fulfilled life. Just my opinion, though. What would I know? I've just been professional artist and art instructor for the entirety of my adult life. Why would I know anything? Why would anyone listen to me? I'm just some goober with an internet connection. Yeah, that's a nice mountain. I think it needs a few more lines, and then we'll be done with it. And then it'll be time to move on and draw the thing that I'm excited about drawing, instead of eating my vegetables and drawing more boring mountains. Yeah. Probably I need to come in here and delete, give this castle a bit more room to breathe here. Available for birthday parties. Yes, indeed. It may already be at every birthday party. That's the thing about the clown beast, is once it's reached full maturity, you can't see it until it's made physical contact. But it's very important. It's very important that if you see a clown beast, if one has touched you and given you the ability to see it, that you do not look it in the eyes. That you do not look it directly in the eyes. That's how they spread. Let's see here. Exum Delver, good to see you, saying that's yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very well. So I was okay. So I've been kind of doing a little bit of reading on like historical bestiaries and grimoires and things like that, and I have always spoken slightingly of what is called Gygaxian naturalism. It's just not the style of game I like to play in. But a lot of those old bestiaries and everything would kind of they read very much like a monster manual entry in a lot of ways, and they give you all these warnings and they give you these procedures and kind of like these bizarre facts about creatures, and it's like, wow, this is actually pretty accurate. And so yeah, I think there is more room for that in my creative endeavors than I thought. But yeah, really, I think my top favorite grimoires. Well, I'm fairly new to looking into it, but so far the Lesser Key of Solomon has really captured my attention. It's got lots of squiggly lines, and that's important for me. But I don't know that I've really given enough of a thorough read to actually take a look at and to make a top 5 list. Rankings of grimoires. Yeah. Ranking list. Yeah, but here, let me show you. So these are all of the layers that I am using for this map right here. So it's really just a folder with the hex grid on it, the background image, and then I have an isometric grid for when I need to turn that on, and then I have all of my line art all on one layer. So just to make things easy for me. So yeah, it really doesn't take much. And even, listen, don't look this in the eyes. Don't make eye contact. But let's just look at the layers. So I have a couple of different layers right here. Here, let me arrange this so you can actually see it. All right, here we go. So if we take a look at what layers, so out for this whole illustration, these are all the layers that I have. I have the white layer in the background, which oftentimes while I'm drawing it, I'll keep it a dark gray just to ease on my eyes. And here, let's just turn them on one by one. I'll start by drawing all the lines. Because I use the magic wand tool to make selections in these different areas, and that's where I will put all of my flat colors all on one layer. So all of that kind of exists together. And then I will add a purple shadow on a multiply layer for everything else. And we can kind of like see all of this stuff is just one multiply layer that adds that shadow through it. And then I will add kind of like this mustardy brown highlights as a separate layer. So this isn't a very painterly way of going about it, but it's a quick method that I used for my graphic novel. And so it's much more comic booky. It's much more cartoony. And not as painterly, but it's fast. That's what I want. And then because I wanted special things out of the I wanted all of this like fuzzy kind of like spray paint effect for the makeup. I have that on its own layer, and that's it. And for most drawings, I wouldn't even have that fuzzy layer right there. For my graphic novel, I would have, excuse me, just one more layer, which would be an all black layer that I would turn to saturation. So I could turn this on and off to just double check values really quickly. It's not the most accurate way to double check your values, but it will do in a pinch, and it's just a quick reference guide. So yeah, those are really all you need. And you flatten as you go, as you are making your layers, as you are getting things where you want them to be, then you just flatten them down because you can always paint over it later. How many times do you really think you're going to go back to that 48th layer and change the colors on that one unlabeled layer? Notice also I have all my layers locked and I have them all labeled. It's a good idea. Anyways, back to drawing my map. So I want to draw a new location, and we're just going to put this location over here. That's probably not where it's going to end up when the map is actually finished, but this map will never be finished, so we won't have to worry about it too much. We are going to be drawing the citadel of the Witchfinders. Yeah, Thunderwolf, keep it simple. If you don't have a really good reason for why you would have lots of layers, then don't keep them around. I'm sure there's lots of great reasons. I actually have a couple of digital paint or digital art, digital coloring tutorials, a crash course on color theory and all that kind of stuff on my YouTube channel. If you check out some of those older videos. But I have this idea that I want there to be some Witchfinders. So Witchfinders are Citadel of Ricks. And I was inspired by this old wood carving of Matthew Hopkins. Witchfinder General. From what I gather, Matthew Hopkins was something of a monster, but he has a cape, and that means that he belongs in RPG. So it looks like there's a movie starring Vincent Price about this guy. That's really interesting. But I looked at this image, and I thought there's something really interesting about this these shapes. It's really identifiable as like old timey and everything like that. You have like really wonderful like sharp silhouettes for everything, and you almost have like this Guy Fawkes mask kind of deal. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we just sort of really played up this idea that these things are sort of like soulless, and just kind of like take this idea of the printing errors from the eyes for this particular rendition of the oh my goodness, of this particular copy. And if they're kind of like these like living mummies, the Witchfinders, so they're kind of like zombies that the church controls, that go out and kind of like by process of elimination just kind of like go out on the countryside and like hunt for witches, and then if they find something and they can't handle it, they'll like report back. They'll go back and they'll get like a cardinal or an inquisitor or something like that, and start actually doing all this kind of stuff. But in the meantime, maybe they have and also like the weird body proportions of this is just like maybe they really do have like these creepy like long marionette arms and everything like that. Like what if that isn't just like ye old drawing style? What if they are actually like that? And what if they have like a chest, like a torso that is full? It's just like a cabinet of their mummified organs that are like suspended in holy waters and frankincense and all this kind of stuff. And so kind of the idea of like the in uncorruptible saint bodies. They kind of like go through this process of like self-mummification to become these tireless creatures that just like are constantly like roaming the countryside for hundreds of years looking for signs of witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. So those are some of the ideas that I have. So this citadel that we're gonna draw is sort of like what I want to draw today. Yeah, and Witch Reaver, I have this idea that maybe their voices just kind of like emanate and echo up from their like cabinet torso. Like there's like their mummified esophagus kind of like coughs up these words that like echo from deeper back in their throat than normal people. All this kind of stuff. Just really get Pete Rouse's church relics. Yeah, that's the idea. And like what are I know 40K has the whole like Catholic excess thing covered, but that doesn't mean that we can't steal just as a little treat every now and again. Catherine. Yeah, especially if the use of undead causes a schism. So yeah, I think that's something that I had thought about is sort of like it's sort of a secret you wouldn't necessarily know. This is you would just if the Witchfinders show up, everybody just gives them exactly what they want. So they can end that conversation as quickly as possible. And it wouldn't be unless something goes terribly wrong that anyone would ever know. And but it's what methods, and if it's there's some stuff like especially the incorruptible saints. If we look at that, incorruptible saints. So yeah, there are some really cool like saints bodies that never like putrefy, or at least that's so the legends go, and they're kind of like in these glass coffins and things like that. I'm trying to find one that isn't like disturbing, or it's too disturbing for this chat. Here we go. Here's one. So, like this right here. This is almost certainly like some kind of like facsimile or something like that. This is not. I mean, a lot of these things have kind of been discovered to be not just like these miraculous bodies that are there's some kind of intervention or embalming or replacement of features or something like that. But still, it's a really interesting metaphor. The idea of like your body is so holy that you just like never putrefy or something like that. I think that's a really cool idea. So it's just like, and that to me kind of sounds like undead. It sounds like necromancy. How could we turn this around, and how could we kind of find our different angle on it? And that would be like a fun thing to like slowly figure out as players are exposed to this thing. They kind of like see these things marching around at a distance. They hear rumors about him, and then they get close, and you're just like, oh, something's really off about these guys. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking there. Samantha, hello. Yes, many of them are coated in wax, and there are some of these that are known to have what are called corpse wax. That kind of like if you're kept in an oxygen starved environment, instead of putrefying, you'll kind of like calcify and like turn your fat kind of like turn. Anyways, I don't want to get too gross. I don't want to gross anybody out. I really don't. I don't want to disturb anybody. I don't want to show anybody anything that they can't unsee. I don't want to bother anybody. That's not what we're doing. That's not what this is about. That's not how I get my kicks. We're here to draw maps, and so this going into too much detail. That's probably better explained in a zine eventually. Anyway. So yes. Okay. Pete is saying, trying to remember which churches I saw. A lot of them were wooden sculptures and bones. Yeah, really cool stuff. My grandfather actually like repaired a traveling reliquary once when he was a carpenter, and that's a story I think about a lot. It's sort of like a neat bit of family lore. But I have this idea that I want the citadel to be kind of like this big watchtower. It's got lot of people with telescopes kind of off the top of it, kind of like spying, constantly looking for. If you have these kind of like self-mummified kind of like automatons, you never have to stop watching. So you can kind of create this like medieval witchfinder police state or something like that. I think that's kind of like a really interesting idea of just like, that if you can see the tower, there's a possibility that somebody's watching your movements and making sure you're not a witch. Pete is saying, I'm also currently working on a Witchfinder zine for Fallen. Been on the back burner for a while. That's really cool. Fallen is great. I really want to work with that author again soon. I've been very busy with all kinds of stuff recently, but I really enjoyed collaborating on that city zine, that city map that we did a while ago. Let's see here. So now I have this problem where I need to really think about how to make this watchtower actually look like something from ye old medieval days without making it look like Rapunzel's tower or something like that. So like establishing a visual language. Normally I would do this in my sketchbook and all this kind of stuff, but I am I've decided not to, I guess. I don't know. Felt like there was a better answer to that earlier. And it turns out there wasn't. So it goes. So I've brought over my isometric grid underneath. I can turn this on and off just to make sure that my lines are straight and I kind of like have this consistent perspective for all my architectural things. Sam is asking, is this for a campaign? It's for the campaign. But no, it's for a campaign setting that I'm working on slowly. It's sort of one of the many back burner projects that I have going on. But I would like to start running. I'm working on a campaign setting, and I would like to start running games using it. Because I have all these ideas for monsters that I would really love to start creeping players out with, but I need to get a game together first. That's the hardest thing. I've had a game recently kind of like stall out just because of scheduling problems, and it's a Lord of the Rings game. I was running the 5th edition Lord of the Rings game. It's like a 5th edition adaptation of the One Ring thing, and I really liked it, but we have not had great luck with scheduling and other things that perhaps I won't mention. But yeah, look up the La Specula Observatory. Okay, let's do that. Ooh, where is this? It's in Italy. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is kind of basically what I was thinking about. We need to find a way to make this look more authoritarian. But this is really good. Dang. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's excellent. It kind of makes me think it needs a moat or something. So let's just grab a quick screenshot, and then I'll pull that in here. So yeah, I think this is going to fit. I'm not worried too much about syncing up the dates for this or anything like that, making sure like it's architecture from the same part of the world. I'm perfectly happy to work in pastiche, and I see no reason to stop. So thank you, Jorga. I appreciate that. Oh, did somebody ask a question, Renaissance Child? Any thoughts on a good hex scale? It depends on what size you're printing at, but if you're asking, like, should it be 2 miles or 6 miles or 10 miles? Again, it really depends on what kind of game you're trying to support. And if you're drawing images inside the hexes like I am, probably smaller the better would be better. Church of Doom. Oops. Yeah, I think you mean to spill the tea about your campaign drama. No, it's not drama. It is in fact just a sad story that one of the players is a dear friend of mine, passed away, and is it's very difficult to kind of like find the excitement for that game, when someone that you love is no longer in it. But I thought, I would spare everybody the story. It's not something I really want to talk about, but I don't mind mentioning that much about it. But I tell you, spend your life running games with people you love. You'll never regret it. You'll never regret it. Especially tabletop games. I think there's a strong chance. I was in college once upon a time. When I was an undergrad, I got really sucked into playing video games, and I have sort of like an it's addictive relationship with video games on a time, especially if I'm feeling stressed out about school stuff, which hasn't exactly changed now that I'm a professor, but perhaps the less said about that, the better. And I just had this feeling. It was just like my friends asked me to do something, and I told them no. And then like 2 minutes later, I was just like, what the heck am I doing? Why? I'm never going to look back and think about the time that I spent with my friends and say, I wish I would have played PlayStation more. Right? I think there are many wonderful games for all kinds of consoles that everyone should play. But I would not go so far as to say at the expense of spending time with the people that I love. So yeah, but D&D, I'll never regret it. I'll never regret it. Time spent being silly, making up stories together. What could be more fun? What could be a better use of our time? I'm sure I couldn't tell you. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not really talking about like the tutorializing this, but I'm sure you can see, anytime you're drawing something in linear perspective or isometric, you start with a box and then you kind of like, figure out what your lines are, and then you erase and kind of like complicate that so it doesn't look quite so boxy. And it really doesn't take much before it looks quite nice. Let's see here. Let's see. Hope they are playing in the stars. Wouldn't that be neat? Wouldn't that be neat, Kizolf? Wouldn't that be something? But yeah, so I'm going to take just a straight line from this little tapered corner right here and kind of like take it out, because if we kind of go straight down right there, it'll look a little bit too rigid. But if I take it in from this tapered line, it'll kind of look a little bit more like a chess piece, right? Maybe that's the idea. I mean, I'm sure people have done this in their fantasy campaigns. You just have like a tower full of ravens, and you call it the rookery, right? And that's the hip way to make something sound fun. And you're also kind of like bringing up chess and castles and all that kind of stuff. But I think in this case, I want animals to kind of hate what's going on in this place. Okay, so there's this weird like octagonal offshoot and like several extra things. Very likely like the top parts of these buildings were later additions to it. but I like how ramshackle it is, and the idea that you start with this like watchtower, and then you adapt it for what you need. So you would have to extend it, and it kind of gives it more of a lived-in, less kind of like brutalist feel to it. I like that a lot. So let's start with a cube, and then maybe if I just turn this into a hexagon, right? We'll get something that looks a little bit like this. And then maybe we can extend this like so. And then add more tower to it here. I don't want to really go all the way to the top of this area right here, but you know, here's the nice thing about working digitally. I can just scoot things around when they're not they're not looking quite right. Yes, yes. This is good. This is good. All right. That's much nicer. I can fix up the perspective a little bit as I go here. I'll get in my main shapes, and then I can, from there, I can kind of like make it look good. Try not to be too judgmental. Try not to do this whole, you know, yeah, like spamming the undo button, the death cycle of every digital artist. I think there's great reasons to do that, but I don't have them. That's not how I want to work. And you're never paid for the lines you erase. You're never paid how many times you hit the undo button. So it's a bad habit to get into. Make a line, erase the line, draw a new line with feeling. That's what it's all about. It's not so bad. Let's see here. Chris Olf says, I found your channel the past week, and I'm fascinated by your draftsmanship. You go already onto inks, and it looks super good. Thank you. I have been drawing for the better part of 2 decades at this point, so it's and also I'm not being super serious about this. If this was client work, I would probably be sketching out things in my sketchbook first, and kind of like going about this in a very different way. But this is what I'm doing to relax, just to talk to you fine people, listen to some jazz music, you know, just kind of chill out. But don't let those lines boss you around, you know? They're just lines. They can't hurt you. Mighty Pepe is saying, hello, this is the first stream after the one that was cut very short. Yeah. Won't be cut short this time. Well, I guess anything's possible, but I checked my calendar this time to make sure that it wasn't going to get cut short. And I am much more confident this time that I am not also due. So yeah, I ended up going, what I was late for was a play test for the MCDM RPG, which I really like how it's shaping up. I've been in a couple play tests, and I really like it. I think James is designing what very well could be my next favorite game. I tend to like a lower level, kind of like more OSR style game. But I really like the shape of this tactical combat that's coming up in their game, and I think I'm going to. And I enjoy tactical combat in solo games, and if they can figure out how to support the director of what they call the GM in those games with proper tools for setting up interesting tactical encounters, holy moly, that is going to be something special. Captain Comet says, what would you define as a witch that these witch hunters are after? Ooh, okay, all right. Now you've gone and done it. You triggered my trap card. Okay. So I'm going to show you some abandoned design work that is likely going to be resurfacing soon. So I was writing a game called The Knave Gospel. Here, let me. Where did it go? Here we go. This will be easier to see. So I had this idea of kind of like making a fun like little kind of like solo skirmish game to be played on VTTs and things like that. And I came up with this idea in a previous homebrew game, a homebrew setting of mine, where the church sort of runs everything. And so you can get practical kind of like petty magic scrolls that would be, the light spell, the open spell, the grease spell, the alarm spell, like mind hand, duplicate, these kinds of things. That it's just like the kind of common low level spells. And then you would get holy scrolls, which would be sort of like zap people with lightning and shield and all this kind of stuff. And then you could get forbidden scrolls, which is kind of an idea somewhat from like Morkborg. And these would be spells that would be declared illegal. So like there's specific kinds of magic. If it hurts someone or if it interferes with people in a certain way, that's a problem, right? So just shooting bees at people, excuse me, that would be bad. Causing someone's tree to wither or something like that. That would be an example of an illegal spell. So if you use one of these illegal spells, you have to make a saving throw, and if you fail that saving throw, witchfinders come after you. And in order to get the witchfinders off your back, you have to help them hunt down witches and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I had a couple missions, and I had a lot of the rules done on this that I really liked. And then I just kind of ran out of time to finish it because I was working on it for a game jam. So now it's just, that's why I make everything in Google Drive, so I can hold on to it until I have time to actually do something with it, right? So yeah, basically anything that is on the illegal magic list would be considered witchcraft. Anything that's not divine magic that is magical. So starting a fire, igniting any fire larger than a candle or something like that would be considered like illegal magic and all that. So I hope that answers your question. So certainly it's in more detail than you were likely wanting, but what a cool, funny shape for the tower. Yes. Okay. So, Church of Doom. So, we have this idea, the tower, this is the watchtower for the Witchfinders. So that is what we are doing here. And this is based off of a tower from Italy that, someone else in chat, suggested. So yeah. So that's why we're talking about like illegal magic and what counts as witchcraft in this setting and all this kind of stuff, because uh, uh, it matters. You know, you have to. These are the questions that are going to be asked. I also have. I'm not going to bother to pull it up because it doesn't have any cool pictures in it. But I have some rules on how to turn fifth edition into a police drama. And again, it's just like, because I had to write laws for like a fantasy city. So like, and look up, you know, so in ye olden days, you could not walk into a city in armor and with your sword. You had to turn that over either at the inn or at the town guard if there were any. What counts as town guards and everything. There's a lot of stuff that we kind of like have learned from movies about the medieval world that isn't necessarily how it actually worked. And it's fun to try to combine the two, but I don't know. I got somebody in my comment section today who is like talking about like medieval maps were actually like this, and it's just like, buddy, I guarantee you I've looked at more medieval maps than you have, and that is wrong. But I didn't say that because I am nice. I try to be. But you know, it's like people will talk about like, well, what about how, you know, old medieval war maps used to look like? And it's like, they didn't have medieval war maps. That's not a thing. That's a thing you saw in a movie and assumed it was true because it fits how you envision you would go to war. It has nothing to do with any map that you've actually seen, any reading you've actually done. It's not that maps didn't exist, but not in the useful way that we think of them now. Anyways, I'm not going to complain about people I don't want to talk about anyway. That's not what we're doing today. That's not what this is about. This is about this sweet, funky organ that we're listening to. Heck yeah. Yes, Mighty Pepe, ask away. Ask any world building questions you have. Let me just catch up on chat a little bit. Are you sketching digitally for the ease of sharing your screen? Kiwi, I'm trying to build my digital skills, and also, yes, it is a lot easier. It is a lot easier to share on a stream. So it kind of for both reasons you said. I am doing it this way. Here's a fun thing you can do to just like imply some brick texture. Just a couple of hatch marks. That's all you need. And then from back here, it reads as a really nice brick texture. Now, I'm not going to do that. I think that's a little too detailed for because I want this map to be rather large. This is a long-term project, everyone. So wasting a lot of time on lots of little details like that is not necessarily serving the map, and it's not serving me. It's not doing me any favors, so we won't be doing that. I am going to make an extra, like a little addition over here on this side of the tower just to keep it from looking like too blocky. I don't want it to look too Minecrafty, I guess, is what I'm really trying to say. What are people saying here? I know it's only docs, but the layout's really super satisfying. Thank you so much. I have difficulty not doing layout stuff as I'm typing. It's a bad habit because I'm not solving design problems. I'm not solving game design problems. I'm solving cosmetic issues. But if it's a hobby project, I can have some graphic design, right? As a treat. There we go. That kind of breaks up the silhouette. Still looks very towery. Actually looks a lot like the tower from a tarot deck I was looking at earlier today. Which is a kind of an interesting thing about like the Tower of Babel and the church and biblical history and all that kind of stuff. Fun. Fun stuff to think about. All right, let's check out what's actually. That's right, Thunderwolf. Actually. The artifacts of the so I'm seeking some creative input for magical items that I'm planning to introduce into my campaign. The artifacts are natural, wondrous objects from the remains of an ancient dragon who is responsible for the creation of the world. Given the immense power of this dragon, I envision these items to be equally potent, yet high risk reward to obtain them, to remain divided categories. Blood, scale, bone, teeth, wing, soul. Mighty Pepe, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I thought you were asking if you're asking for help with your own campaign. I'm happy to do that, but try not to take up quite so much real estate in chat, because it very quickly turns into a wiki for your campaign if we're not careful here. But yeah, it sounds really, really cool. But if you could kind of boil down your question so that I could help, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I would rather you find a different kind of forum for your questions, like on social media or a Discord or something like that. There's plenty of great places to get help like that kind of stuff. So, but if you can phrase your question short and sweet, I am more than happy to talk about it. Thank you for the super chat, Charles. Can you suggest a crafting system for TTRPG? I cannot find one that scratches the itch I'm experiencing. Gather stone and 2 wood to make a pickaxe. Well, that's not generally the game that I try to run. I feel like the more time you spend working out a crafting system, the less time you're spending playing the game that everybody was there to play. If I was to do a crafting system, I would make sure that, like, hey, this is happening in between sessions. Here, use this book to do this on your own time, so that when we're together, we're playing this game and not kind of going through this extra subsystem. So I would find something very lightweight. But yeah, I guess I would like to know more, Charles, if you could say more of the premise behind what you want out of that. Thank you, Mighty Pepe. I'm sorry. I don't like to get down on. I don't want to shut down dialogue, but just want to keep the space in a certain way. Charles, if you could explain more of like what you're looking for. But yeah, a lot of crafting is kind of borrowed from old, kind of like spreadsheet style, get these ingredients. And I don't think that it often kind of results in strong play, because then it turns into a shopping list. I think probably what I would do is put it all on like an NPC in town that says, it's just the NPC could say like, oh, keep your eye out for this. If you're heading over to these monsters, you bring me back this, what's it called? I could make a something out of it for you. Because you know where they're headed, right? You know what you have planned. Or you could have that weird like monster smith kind of like hanging out in front of the dungeon asking the dear adventurers that are going into those woods. It's like, hey, if you give me this. So turn it into a quest is what I would do. But as far as like an actual like big encyclopedia that players can look through and go like, I want this item. If you have those kinds of players, the stuff that exists that you're describing is probably good enough. If you don't have those players, then probably a book is not going to solve your problem. My games are only ever solo. Oh, that's it. I see. Okay, that changes it. That changes it utterly. In that case, yeah, then I would suggest turning it into. I would suggest turning it into a quest. It's just like if you're kind of driving the story to begin with, that's how I would go about it. Instead of again kind of like doing this whole subsystem. And I've played lots of solo games. I really enjoy them, and I enjoy the authorship of them. And if you if you're looking for something that is more like heavy in its simulation aspects, again, we might have like incompatible tastes for my answer to help you out at all. But I hope at least you understand what I'm saying with making it quest driven as opposed to crafting driven. If the thing that you want is the item, there are lots of ways to get it besides crafting, and in ways that probably engage more with the core systems of whatever game you're playing. Okay. Let's go back here. Let me make sure. For real, I've never finished a manuscript by the time I'm laying it out because, it's just making it. It's yeah. Looking at aerial text on a white background is boring, and it makes me feel not creative. But it must be done. Always love it when magic items have strong history. Yes, this is great. James is asking, real quick question for my own world building project I've been doing for a while. Can swamps, marshes, or any bogs or wetlands end on coasts or beaches? Yes, absolutely, James. Actually, that if you look around Louisiana and around Lake Pontchartrain, they are brackish marshes. Which it's great because it's a great word. It's fun to say brackish, and you can have kind of like these sort of like almost like saltwater creatures that will sneak up into these areas, and like sea snakes and eels and all this kind of stuff. All kinds of crazy creatures live in brackish swamps. So yeah, and then deltas kind of like can be swampy at certain times of the year and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Mighty Pepe is saying, it's all good. My question is basically this. What can be items of Dragon's Carcass that created the planets? I would like to have these higher... Oh, what kinds of items? I tend to think very mythically about things. So if I was thinking about like a dragon that created the universe, I would think about, is it a virtuous act to make these items or not? If making a sword out of the holy dragon that created the world is a bad thing to do, then I would make it a sword of unmaking. You know, like I would make it like the anti-creation sword. If that makes any sense at all. I would really think about like, what are the themes? What are the things that you know about this dragon? What are the abilities that it has? What does it stand for in your world mythology? And then like, do you go into your head? I think, but you know, if you were to think about like, you know, maybe it's Fortress Unvanquishable has some great sword, an invincible sword made out of dragon parts, and the steel eye of this dragon was used to sharpen the blade. It was the only thing that was capable of not being destroyed. To be used as a sharpening implement, that kind of stuff. So maybe like several relics made from this dragon could be made that kind of tie into that. But also like, you know, did it create just the land? Because if this is like high risk, high reward, I would really think about having, maybe it creates a whole new country. It just or it surfaces Atlantis or something like that. Or it causes an earthquake so strong. That's another thing you could do is have a haywire list, is what it would have been called back when I was playing Warhammer Second Edition. The haywire table. It's what goes wrong if you fail your willpower save when you use this thing? What are the natural disasters this thing could cause? It's is it just a risk reward to get it, or is the risk reward to also use it? There's lots to play with there. So I hope that helps. That's an interesting question. Let's see here. I see Church of Doom is helping out with James. Yorga is saying there are some crafting stuff in the upcoming Monsters of Drakenheim. Yeah, I'll bet. The dudes are at it again. Been trying out some more solo D&D and loving it. Charles, any tips for more experienced solo players? I love to see people having their conversations and chats. Quattro, hello. I'm doing well. Thank you for the kind words. Oh, good. Okay, good, Charles. I'm glad that is at least that you're appreciating the input, even if it wasn't useful for what you're looking for. You're all you're saying is I appreciate it, but you're in all caps, so there seems to be some enthusiasm for it. So thank you so much. That puts a smile on my face. Bali Cobb the Fourth says, any technical or procedural tips for drawing maps digitally? Any pro tips about software or workflow? So this is actually the first map I've ever drawn digitally. So I don't know, but honestly, it wouldn't be that different. I don't treat it that differently. I would probably just do more of a sketch layer than what I'm doing right now, just rushing into it. But this is sort of for a personal project, so I'm not under a deadline, so I don't have to work efficiently, and I also want to make sure that I'm not going too slowly, so it makes a boring stream. But yeah, just start with a plan, and really just if you're viewing map as game design, I have a lot more advice for you. If you're viewing a map as a requirement for, there's a lot of different reasons to have maps in your games, and it really, your approach to what you are drawing and how to draw it really depends on what your goals are for that. If you think of it as level design, or if you think of it as a player-facing tool that they can kind of help author their own adventure, then I have lots of videos on that. But the actual process of drawing it isn't terribly different. But I have messed up the perspective of this moat because I had the whole screen tilted. So I'm going to fix that now. That's something I should be doing to kind of separate this background from the foreground a little bit. It's just kind of a little bit of halo effect. So if we kind of keep the lines off of the things that are in the foreground, it kind of helps create an illusion of depth with very, very little impact, very little. It's almost brainless. It's just free depth of field. Yes. Cool. All right. I think this is pretty good for now. I might come in and change some aspects of it later. I haven't decided how important it is for me to draw the telescopes. I feel like that might be a little too... Right now I just want it to read as watchtower, and it's doing that. And if I feel like it needs a little bit more character, I can add it later. So let's think about what the area around this watchtower would be like. I think it would probably be like a clear-cut forest. So let's draw some trunks and stumps. And this sort of indicates that this forest was clear-cut recently. And I don't know how recent these guys have been in power here, but it tells the story visually, right? So not only would you want the forest to be clear-cut so you could see people approaching, but like the more you cut away this forest, the further your prying eyes can see that no witchcraft is happening in the surrounding hills. There probably needs to be a somewhat major settlement nearby for this to be an important place to look after. Or there has to be something that this watchtower is watching, and I don't know what it is. But I can focus on drawing a bunch of tree chunks in the meantime. Pastel Grays, hello, Kyle. Hello, Pastel Grays. Oh my, lots of talking. I need to catch up on this. Yes, I see I've been working on my version of lizard folk for my world. The reptile folk, which could be like a family taxa for the lizard. Yeah, I like that. And I think that would be really interesting, James. You could kind of get into sort of like almost like a Lovecraftian Deep Ones, where they have settlements kind of like on land and in the marshes, but they also kind of like have these like, underwater cities off the coast that maybe like belong to their ancient ancestors. But as they've slowly changed to adapt to life in the land, they can't actually live in these abandoned cities, but they still got a bunch of crazy stuff down there and like legends and monsters that now haunt those. It's just like, it's free dungeon right there. Free dungeon idea. That offers a lot of interesting opportunity, James. So Mighty Pepe is saying like the dragon's breath is actually made of a dragon fall effect, a whale fall effect. That's how the planet had its spark. I wrote some items earlier in the abilities, what you said. All right, excellent. I'm glad that worked out for you. Think about creation myths and think about what it would be like to, if you cut someone with a sword made out of the one of the wing bones of the dragon. Maybe your wound sprouts D4 doves. Like doves just like come out of the open wound and like tear a big gash into it. Just like, I don't know. I get really weird and mythical with it. Captain Comet, do I watch many movies regularly? I a lot of my movie watching days are sort of like, I don't like watching movies by myself. I like watching movies. A lot of the people that I used to watch movies with are no longer are local anymore. So, but I watched a lot of movies during the pandemic. Holy moly. But these days I'm a little too busy just to sit down. I still watch anime. I'm really enjoying following along with Delicious in Dungeon every week. And what's the new one? Kaiju 8. Kaiju number 8 is really cool. I like that a lot. Crabapple Bread is saying, do you have any recommendations on how to start building a map or even tips? I actually have lots of videos about just that subject, but yeah, it's difficult to give general advice about that. if I knew more about your, just start drawing. Like just start very rough. Start by thinking about what are the things that you can put on that map that are going to give your players interesting decisions to make. And if you're not drawing a map for a game, then I those are the maps that I draw. So I don't just maps for map making sake. If it's not for a game, then draw anything that brings you joy. Focus on that. That's the most general advice there is. Draw what makes you happy. All right, let's draw some more stumps. We'll probably draw like a creek or something, but let's just fill some space. Let's just fill some space, and maybe we'll just have like a big fallen tree. Kind of like right here. How wasteful. Oh, goodness. These monsters. The Miyazaki villains. Okay. James is saying, now I got ideas for adding subspecies, basically large crocodiles. Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. That's wonderful. So yeah, it's just like that's sometimes all you need is just like, you find the excuse. And sometimes sometimes there's some of your best ideas are going to come from things that don't fit, right? So if this conversation kind of started just like, hey, is it okay if my campaign has a marsh that is next to a if my marsh is next to some what's it called, ocean, right? It's like, well, maybe there aren't often marshes that are next to oceans, but what would it mean if there was? Why might that be? Maybe there's a marsh because there's a marsh because there's all this like ancient city that's kind of like sunk into the mud. It was whelmed by the ocean many eons ago, and all of the silt that is caught from the river that used to run through the middle as like its royal canal has now kind of like gotten clogged up. And now it's just like, so the silt kind of gets caught on this, when you build like artificial beaches on lakes and things like that, you will actually put bricks underneath them to keep the sand from getting washed away. So it's a lot of like beaches and parks and everything like that. If you go out, if they have like a swimming line around it so the boats don't run into it, if you just kind of like go out a couple of steps, so like you're waist deep into the water, and you just kind of like stomp your feet and kind of kick up a lot of sand, eventually you will probably find that there's a bunch of bricks down there, because there's a brick retention to keep the waves from like pulling the all that precious sand, because that sand is like, well, this is now part of the community. We're going to have parties and barbecues, and this is how we're going to get people to move to this city. So we gotta make sure this beach never goes anywhere, which is very unnatural for bodies of water, for things to stay put. So I was a nosy little kid, and I may have just spent the better part of an afternoon when I was a child pulling bricks out from underneath a beach until someone told me what they were there for. And I guess I thought that I probably thought at the time there was like a house under there or something like that. That's another thing that kind of reminds me, around the same area where we used to vacation, not too far from the Quabbin Reservoir outside of Worcester, Massachusetts. Worcester, Massachusetts. If you're a Lovecraft fan, the name Quabbin Reservoir might ring a bell because it's mentioned prominently in the short story Color Out of Space. And they to make a reservoir in the early 1900s for Boston, they flooded this whole valley with 3 or 4 towns in it, and they're under there to this day. Oh my goodness, there's so much more chat I need to catch up on. So yeah, sunken cities are fun. I guess that's my thing. Let's see here. Do I have any recommendations? Okay, I said that. Subspecies, we said that. What canvas size and DPI are you using for this level of detail on the map? Well, I'm glad you asked. Oh, whoops. Here we go. So this is at 300 DPI, which is about the minimum you could probably get away with printing a map at 150 DPI. That's probably fine. You're not going to notice too much, but I like to be on 300s just to be safe. And if we were to convert this to inches, oh, whoops, pressing the wrong thing. I'm on the wrong screen. This is going to be 3 feet by 2 feet. So each of these hexes is about an inch. That's what I'm doing. Okay. Are you familiar with the dungeon mapping mechanics from Dark Fort? I am not. Mickle Guy is asking me, do you play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons? More advanced than some, less advanced than others. No, I don't. I've never played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I find the rules to be written in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I've played plenty of OSR clones that say the same things in a briefer way, and that's my preference for those kinds of things. But I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. That was not my first RPG. My first RPG was Dragon Ball Z. So yeah, my roots in Dungeons and Dragons are not as deep as all that. Let's see here. Neat, thanks. I'm making maps for 2 reasons. Both level design and to organize my space as a GM. My setting has a lot of portals everywhere. Yes, that's so I see now. That makes a lot of sense. So I would be interested in map design advice that you have. So if you're just making maps, here, let me... If you're just making maps, this isn't quite what here. Is it on this computer? I might not have. Yes, it might not be here. But yeah, honestly, if it's just for your notes, I'll show you this as an example of what I mean, even though it's not the strongest example of what I mean. So what I will do is actually just like have a rough map or a rough area. In this case, this is a Dyson map. This is what I would run for how I keep my notes for games that I run on my own. And I'll just make notes in shapes on top of the map like this. And that way I can just write whatever notes I want. They're kind of bound by a geographic space. And then I can print out the unlabeled version for my players. But I know it all corresponds and all this kind of stuff. So this is for my homebrew setting, the city of Carcass. where the spiders are working in the coffin mines, digging up these old catacombs and taking people's bodies to perform necromancy on an ancient great tree that has been submerged beneath the city. So lots of weird spider stuff in this particular dungeon. But yeah, keep, it's like, don't, if it's just a GM thing, it's just for your notes, don't draw stuff. Try not to, because then you're not solving the problems that a GM needs to solve. You're solving problems that a visual artist needs to solve. And then once you're happy with all that and you've moved it all around, you've had a chance to play test it, then eventually you can come back and kind of like, draw your nice looking version and all that kind of stuff. There's a really wonderful map artist who I really like. I know I talked about him in a Q&A video before, but yes. Okay, so it's a blog called The Bearded Devil, and excuse me. Some really, really beautiful work done in here. So this was, I believe, for Dungeon 28. But these maps that are being drawn here are player facing. Let me see if I can find. So all this dungeon stuff is sort of like here. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. So this is a city map that this fella drew for his home game. And it's much bigger than any maps that I've ever made, and it's exquisitely drawn and detailed and labeled, and it's a real labor of love, and I'm sure it brings a lot of opportunity and play to the table. And this person is doing exactly what I would tell someone not to do. It's not that I have great advice. I have advice that makes sense for me, but if you listen to my advice, you may never get to draw the coolest map that's ever been made. So yeah, what do I know? Let's see here. Creating a solo year one man out of a cave. Oh, that's really interesting. There's some good like dinosaur OSR games that I would look into. There's one by Diogo. Let me see if I can find it really fast. Yeah. Primal Quest. Yes. Okay. So you might want to look into Primal Quest from Old Skull Publishing, from Diogo Naguera. Oh, I'm embarrassing myself now. Not only am I uncultured, but I also have a reading disability. Diogo Naguera. We'll say that. I said it right, just for the sake of this. But these are really excellent zines. I don't know that they're going to have crafting stuff in it necessarily, and I think there's sort of like some sci-fi stuff built into the setting. But hey, I mean, worst things that could happen is you buy some really beautiful zines. So yeah. let's see here. I need to catch up on chat here, and then I'll get back to drawing stumps. Delicious in Dungeon. What a wonderful anime. Yes. Salt Marshes. Yeah, Salt Marsh. Secrets of Salt Marsh. It's right there at the very beginning of Dungeons and Dragons publishing history. I didn't even think of that. Let's see here. Color of Space is one of the best. It's one of my favorites. Captain Comet having a conversation. Jonathan Frost says, "Oh, well, it was. I'm sure you're long gone, Church of Doom, but it was good to see you. Thanks for stopping in." Jonathan Frost is saying, on the Lovecraft subject, I have a race based on D&D Marrow and Deep Ones. More human early in life, but much larger, less moral, and more fishy and mutated the older they get. That's really interesting. I would is that, I wonder if that's a playable race or not. But yeah, fish people are always fun. It's a standard. Lots of ways to do it. I think actually the Bearded Devil guy has some Deep One inspired fish people that are fops and dapper dudes and everything, which is a nice slant on it. Bali Cobb is saying, I'm interested in drawing nice looking maps eventually, but probably later, and only like for, yeah, exactly. Start with battle maps too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, or local area maps. Start small, especially if it's your first one. If you start drawing a giant world map, it's like unless you want to do it for fun. If you want to do it for fun, that's fine. But if you're asking for my advice, and it seems that you are, start small with things that you can finish up. It'd be fun. J. Newman guy says, if you're taking questions, I've been tooling around with a world map for a campaign I've been cooking on for a while, but can't decide if it should be isometric or topographic. Which is best for a world map? Well, let me ask you this. Is going up and down in elevation on a key feature? Is that a key feature of the gameplay of your world? If slight changes in elevation aren't a big deal, then a topographic map isn't necessarily going to give you gameable, useful stuff. If you just need to know that, like, okay, mountains and cliffs and things exist, you can do that pictorially without necessarily having to draw these like concentric rings and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of different ways to get at elevation, but how granular do you need to go? When I think of topographic map, so if I'm thinking about a topographic map, oops, that's not it. Here we go. Like, this is what I think of when I think of topographic map. So all of these like rings and circles and everything are kind of showing changes in elevation. So like, this right here would be 1,200 feet above sea level versus this valley right here would just be there's a 200-foot difference. But in what detail and what level of granularity is a 200-foot level difference really going to matter? What information? Now, if I'm surveying, there are lots of great reasons that topographic maps exist. But if there is not a meaningful distance for my players or me when I'm running my game between this line and this line, why am I drawing them? Right? If really, like, the only major in your world map, if the only major decisions are being made of do we go through the mountains, do we go over the mountains, do we go around the mountains, just draw the mountains. You don't need to draw all the stuff. That's just my opinion. If drawing topical maps makes you happy, that's what you should do. You shouldn't listen to me at all. Thank you, Ricardo, for the I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Diogo at Gen Con last year, and he's really cool. I respect the heck out of him, and it really embarrasses me to have so thoroughly butchered that man's name. It makes me it's very, very upsetting, but here we are. My feet of clay pronunciation. Forbidden Lands is a Free League publishing. It's really a fun TTRPG. That has some dinosaurs in it. Yeah, that's really cool. They just put out Dragonbane 2, which I have the box set of, but I have not had a chance to play yet. Have you seen the old Will Wheaton movie based on The Color Out of Space? No, but I did see the more recent one with Nicolas Cage. I really enjoyed it. Bollycob says, what do you think of this idea I had the other day, that Civ 4 scenario editor for making world maps for personal use? Yeah, go for it. That's use whatever you want, use whatever tools make sense to you and are available, by all means. I think that's a great idea. All right. Crabapple Bread, have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping in. Okay, let's see. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours. I've gotten a little bit of drawing done. Let's get some more stumps in. At the very least. Now I need to I need to think about what needs to be around. Why is this watchtower here? I can move it around to something important later, but it's an opportunity to kind of ask questions of my world. But yeah, I haven't decided. Why is this here? Is this maybe this area is known for witchcraft? It has problems with it. Lots of people running around casting all kinds of crazy spells. Maybe there's people are raising monsters. Could be that our watchtower here has been like repurposed from an old watchtower that used to be here for some other reason, and now it's kind of being repurposed. I don't know. Yeah, I have to think about that. It's Luca again. Did I miss much? I tabbed out of the while I was talking to a friend. I don't know while is accurate since I tabbed. You were explaining witchfinders. Sure. Yeah. Where are the witches, dude? Well, that's the question, right? I actually don't think there are many. I think in my head, they are really kind of going after petty crimes, and kind of enforcing the law of like who can cast what kinds of spells. Sort of like it's more about the presence of the kind of witchfinder police state than it is about the actual finding of actual committed witches. I have this idea that the actual witches in this setting are too clever to be found. But that doesn't mean that we can't put a bunch of witches around here. But you wouldn't necessarily, if it was just like, I don't know, unless it was a witch's coven or there was like a place of power, that's not bad. That's not bad. So maybe there are ley lines here in the area that kind of makes this, you know, sort of like the Hellmouth in Sunnyvale or Sunnydale or whatever in Buffy, right? It's just like, oh, this is a built-in excuse for wacky stuff to happen here every week. So it's just like, okay, all these problems keep happening. Let's put a watchtower. Let's put a citadel for the witch finders around here. I think that's probably a good enough solution for now. So now we have to think about, oh, well, it's actually not a great solution. I take back what I just said. Now I need to think about, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? How do we show that visibly on the map? Is it some kind of well? Are there a bunch of, probably some standing stones or something like that? That'd probably be a good way to visualize it. That's not bad. Oh, this is cut down. It didn't fall down. I'm going to get bored of drawing trees any second now. But at least we have some in here. If I really wanted to copy and paste, I could. In fact, I think I will. We don't need these to be entirely crowded. Nobody needs to see that many stumps in one place. So let's spread these out like the peas on my plate that I don't intend on eating. Make it look like I finished my vegetables. There we go. I don't want to copy and paste. I'm not quite that lazy in this case. I mean, you can copy and paste all you want. I want this to be like a cool bespoke map and everything, but that doesn't mean I need to actually draw like a, you know, trees wherever they would been. That gets the basic idea across. Okay. Dueling peaks from Breath of the Wild rotted. Yeah, sure. Did I miss much? Is it concerning I missed the clown? The clown hasn't gone anywhere. That's the good news. Now I must say again, I must tell everyone that do not make eye contact with the clown. Do not look at the clown. Don't feed the clown. It's really important that we don't encourage the clown. This is how it reproduces. It plants a little dream worm in your brain, and then you wake up one day and you are the clown. So just don't look it in the eye. Don't do it. Let's see here. Maybe some witches are better at hiding than others. Yeah, that's true. But is witches something I need to put on the map? Maybe not. And that's sort of like, you know, I can put a witch wherever I want. That's really easy. That's easy enough to hand wave. But a reason for the witch to be there that is on the map is sort of like a more powerful and a more permanent way to go about it. Let's see here. Perhaps there is a site of focused magic, like a ring of stones. Yes, I think that's good. I think that's what we're going with. James Maxwell says, "Could the witches be weak to water?" I like that. Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe that's just an old superstition and it doesn't have to work. I like that idea a lot, though. I'm melting. Blue Dine Hour. I'm gonna miss this one, but I'll definitely be back to watch later. Love the last stream. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I hope you come back. Okay, lots of people in chat are gonna have nightmares tonight. That makes me happy. A really big witch. Yeah, that's not bad. A giant witch. You know, in Norse mythology, giants and witches were kind of the same thing a lot of times. So what if there's like a witch bone valley? Like a graveyard of witches. Ooh, I like that idea a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like an elephant graveyard, except for witches. Like witches from all over. Like when they know that it's their time. They toss themselves into this chasm, and there's just like sedimentary layers of centuries of witches, and their familiars. Ooh, that's good. Witch graveyard, witch graveyard, witch graveyard. Giant Baba Yaga house. That's good. Although Baba Yaga house, it's no sense in mapping it. If I was gonna do Baba Yaga's house, I would put like an old Final Fantasy overworld. I'd put like the footprints of the house, and not the house itself. Just like what are these giant chicken footprints? What's going on here? Giant's graveyard with a giant hag witch adds to the magical zone thing. Yes. My synchronized brainwaves slowly turning into mimetic clowns. A horribly respectable, boring businessman. Yeah. Galaxy. Hey yourself. What if the water is made up of by the witches to fool fools to be left alone? Yeah. Yeah, it's like they spread this rumor that they're allergic to running water, so people would just like stop crossing the river. The leftover magic in the witch's graveyard could be the best place to craft magical items. There's that crafting magical items bit. Probably casting spells. On an eclipse, cast a spell on the during the eclipse at the witch's graveyard. That's not bad. They pretend to melt. See, not a witch. Yeah, that's not bad. Witch saliva lake. Okay. Let's think about this. What's the best way to draw a witch's graveyard? All right. Well, let's start by looking up an elephant graveyard. Do those exist? Is that a thing from The Lion King? Or is that a thing that happens? Always important. Not that it really matters, but it would be cool if we could see. Ooh, yes. Okay. That's nice. This is fun. So here's a misty elephant graveyard. I mean, it could be staged. Who knows? But also, like, who's that would be like a full truckload of elephant bones just to stage a photo. I don't know. Regardless of how real it is or what it looks like in real life, I feel absolutely fine kind of leaving or letting my imagination run away with me. But it is fun to depart from a place of reality for me, as opposed to kind of thinking, kind of just starting with the popular images. It's just like, oh yeah, let's just pull up a screenshot from the Lion King and go from there. It's not always the most fruitful way to start. It's just like if that we've already seen that. If we've already seen that in The Lion King, why would we want it here? Originality is overrated, but also so is stealing an idea untransformed. Okay, so let's just find some room over here. Let's see. Ooh, this gives me an idea. This gives me an idea. This reminds me of... let's see. I had another sea map that I think I've brought up before. Wine Dark Sea. Yes, here we go. So I have this this map that I made a while ago now, called the Wine Dark Sea, and it's kind of like my all killer no filler sea map. And one of the locations on this sea map is oh my goodness, I didn't like that. I was trying to treat Adobe Acrobat like Photoshop, and it was not not enjoying itself. Okay, so let's just open this up in Photoshop so that way I can zoom in all I want. There we go. So yeah, off the jaundiced Oregon market of bilirubin, we have the Witching Isle of Sycorax, which is the name of Calibac's mother. Is it Calibac or Caliban? I always forget which one is a comic character and which one is from The Tempest. Anyways. Caliban. It's his mom. So I like that idea of like an island. An island with a bunch of standing stones and bones and skulls and altars and stuff like that. But we can make this like a fairly large yeah, maybe like it would be like they can't get to it, right? You have to be a witch to get to the Isle of Sycorax. So they can't, the witch finders can't just like go and destroy it. They can't like go and just like deal with it directly. So they have to like post this guard tower that is like watching for witches making their pilgrimage to the Isle of Sycorax. I like this. I like this a lot. This is good. So how have I drawn water in the past? Let's see. What do I draw for water? Okay. So something like this is how I'm going to draw the coastlines. Even though this is a bit marshy, I probably want this to be marshy as well. I'm probably going to put... I think we're going to move all of this, actually. I'm going to move all of this over here. Yes. And we can have our watchtower over here. Put our watchtower over here. Keep an eye on this, and then we can just expand the shores of this marsh out and around, and then we'll just have the island of Sycorax in the middle of this marshy lake. I love it. That's great. Perfect. Now I have to draw it. Now I just have to draw it. Oops. Oops, I made myself disappear. This is what I was looking for. All right, let's catch up with chat now that we have a good plan. I like all the tree stumps. Good, good. I just got here. Aussie time zones. Patty B Vids. Good to meet you. Thanks for coming in. So not sure what you said at the start, but I just got a graphics display and wanted to start drawing maps myself. So I was wondering what programs you use and any starting tips. Renaissance Manchild is saying Caliban Sycorex is the sea goddess in my campaign. It's a great name, isn't it? So I am using Photoshop. If I didn't already, I get Photoshop through my work. If I didn't already get Photoshop, I'd probably just use Clip Studio. Yeah. So and then just start drawing. Don't worry about doing it right. Just do it, and you will develop your own taste. And if you are honest with yourself, you will improve that way. And then when you have specific questions, I'm more than happy to help you with that. But without kind of understanding what project you want to do, if all you want to do is start drawing maps, ain't nothing stopping you from just like pick out a couple of maps that you really like, make some copies, rearrange them, change the labels, go nuts with it. Ain't no wrong or right way to start drawing maps. Follow your curiosity. But if you have more specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. Gus is saying, does the water part only for witches? Ooh, I like that. Kind of like a Moses thing. That's not bad. I'm thinking like there's a mist that kind of like befuddles and confuses or something like that. Who knows? I'll probably draw some mists or something. Don't you hate it when your neighbors erect an 80-foot tower? Yeah, they're just being really nosy neighbors. That's I like the kind of like pettiness of the witch hunters. Because I do kind of think that I want them to be scary for low level play, but also like they're like grumpy and repetitive, and they're kind of like bad, like stupid robots in my campaign. So yeah. Hey, I hate it when my neighbors spoil my crops and make my milks go sour. Yeah, that's no good. But crops tend to spoil and milk tends to sour anyway, regardless of the presence of witches. What this map needs is an HOA. That is essentially what the Witchfinders are about, I think. That's the vibe. That's really the vibe. Splash water if see if she melts. Wizard. Photoshop doesn't have an isometric grid. Well, you just copy and paste an isometric grid on into Photoshop, right? I don't. So this is what I do. I have it's on a low layer of transparency, but I just bring in my isometric grid, put it on a layer, turn down the transparency, lock it so I don't accidentally draw in it, and I'm all set. It doesn't have it built in, but that doesn't mean that I can't. No, don't delete my layer. My goodness. Okay. Almost caught up on chat. I'm going to start drawing any second now. Let me say, Gus says, let me say, Math Crow, you're one of my favorite creators on the site. Thank you so much. Almost every one of your redone monsters have made their way into my home game. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. You know, sometimes I like sharing my ideas, but I never know if people are using them. So it's really cool. I want people to be creative first and foremost and have fun with what they want to do. But I also think it does tickle me when people are like, yes, I want to do exactly that. That's also very fun for me. So thank you so much. Let's see. Grizzhoot, hello, hi. How you been? Good to see you. I love how little lines can convey so much information about the terrain. Yeah, doesn't take much. Clip Studio it is. I got an art range or an Art Rage 6 with my display. I have not heard of that, but I'm only I basically am only gotten into digital art making recently. I've always colored in Photoshop, but I've only recently started drawing in it, so I'm not nearly as I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as many are. I'm a little late to the scene, but that just gives me the opportunity to get weird and do my own thing, you know? So let's start with a big hagstone. Now, hagstones, I think, are actually the word you would use for small versions of what I'm drawing. But, you know, no reason we can't use a cool name for it. But yeah, there is these stones that kind of like get these holes kind of like cutting through the middle of them, and they're called hagstones, and you can make necklaces out of them. They're really fun and cool. I don't know why they're called hagstones, but they're neat. I like them. So I just need to make sure that kind of the bottom of this stone kind of looks like a hand, which I don't hate, but I don't know that I'm going to keep it that way. But I just need to make sure that the bottom of this line of the stone where I'm drawing the grass is basically lining up with the grid, and that'll be good enough. And just a little shading under there for this hole, and we're all set. So now we can put in some more of these weird looking standing stones. I need to think of some other visual indicator to it's not just the standing stones, but I don't have to think of that right now. I like to add these kind of like hatch marks that kind of like they follow the contour of the actual stone. So not only is it adding detail, but it's also kind of like giving you the illusion of volume. It's kind of doing double duty. It's just sort of an efficient way to both increase the value, add texture, and inform the shape as well. You can see hags through the hole. Is that what it is? The hand stone. Yeah. Hey guys, is it normal to feel groggy out of nowhere? I don't know. Oh, I think I think the spider my neighbor gave me was spiked. Maybe they're a witch. One time I worked at this place, and they gave everyone like free snacks, and they gave us some kombucha. And it had been sitting in the sun for a bit, and so it had kind of like, kombucha is already fermented, but it had kind of like gone a little bit further, and I was just like, the whole office had like this really like chill buzz going. And it was pretty great. It was pretty great. That was a funny day. Patty B. Vids says, man, I managed to get the Ajax edition, the MCDM RPG, and I can't wait to have one of those. Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting, Patty V. Vids. That makes me... Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So we haven't kicked off that project yet. They've been doing a lot of hiring and like getting... Because, yeah, that map... I don't know if that map is going to show up anywhere except for the Ajax edition. I think right now, as far as I know, it's only going to be in the Ajax edition. But, I mean, that could change. It's not my decision. But that won't ship for a while, and they have a lot of other things to deal with. That is a better use of their time than getting me all of the information I'm going to need to I'm very curious to see what kind of information I actually get to make this map. How much of this will I need to write myself, or how it's going to work, I don't know. I'm very excited about it, and I really like working with MCDM. I still haven't actually spoken to Matt ever, but I worked with James on a bunch of things in the past, and I love working with James. He's great. He is honestly, not only is he just a fantastic and brilliant designer, but he is one of the kindest, sweetest, most thoughtful people I have ever worked with professionally. Yeah, so anyways, I'm just going to embarrass myself if I keep talking about it. But I am also very excited, and I am delighted to know somebody who's getting that edition. I can't wait to get that done. I think the idea is it's going to get printed on cloth too. So that'll be exciting. And it's actually one of the reasons I wanted to start drawing digitally, is because to draw that map at the size that they want it and the level of detail that I want it, I was just like, okay, I should probably really think about doing this digitally. So I'm kind of like building skills on this project so that I won't be trying things out for the first time on that project, if that makes any sense. Although so far, it's been really easy learning curve for me. The tablet technology is really strong now, so it all looks like my lines, for better or worse. Okay. Still going. That's right, JP. Can't stop me. Let's see. There's a guy. There's a circle of mushrooms growing on the floor. Yeah, you might want to talk to a doctor. J. Newman guy. I think there's definitely something in that cider you had. JP and WK, you met at Bud's Dairy at where was it called? Origins. So yeah, you might know them through a different screen name, but two very talented artists. Patty B. Vids is saying, I've been playing a Daggerheart game with Hannah Rose. Oh, dang. That sounds like a really fun time. One of the few mods and testers, and they have all great things to say about MCDM and James. Yeah, well, Hannah would know, right? Was there for quite a while. I've heard very good things about Hannah, but I haven't had the pleasure of meeting them, or much less playing in Daggerheart. That sounds really fun. I mean, it's the skills are there no matter the medium. That's very true. Yeah, but it's still like, if your skills, if the way you naturally tend to make doesn't gel with the assumptions of the tool set, that can sometimes cause some problems. So it's skills, but it's also like what does the platform need out of you? What is it asking out of you? And is it the things that you have skills in? Which isn't always true, and digital drawing for a long time was not easy to transfer until the Cintiq came along, and even then, I used a Cintiq back in the day, and I was like, this doesn't look like my line work. The technology is not here yet, but it is now, and this I don't even have a Cintiq. This is a Huion. Huion. It's a 16-inch little ham and egger, and I love this thing. Canvas Pro. K-A-M. M as in Michael. It makes you sound like a child. Canvas. Canvas. This is a good track. I like this. Someone's taking that bass for a walk. Dooba doob doob dooba 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 boo boo. Let's see here. Oh, Sam, you have okay. Well, we're buds. We're pals. We got the same tech. I've never felt closer to you. Kiwi Dilettante says, I borrowed your take on kobolds for my minions, for the minions in my campaign. What are they building? An extra spike to drive into the sleeping dragon and make it part of their hive mind. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so good. That's taking my idea even further. I hadn't even. Oh, that's good. You should write that up. That's. I hope people. This is. I wish more people had like blogs or channels or publishing adventures or something like that. There's so many great ideas out there. So, okay. All right. You know what? We were looking at the clown worm earlier, right? And don't look at its eyes, but it's kind of. I realized as I was writing up all the lore, it reminded me of this article I read about the false Hydra, which is kind of an infamous article about this really cool monster idea. And it's excellent. It's so good. And it's like a whole campaign just written in sort of like this almost like this nonfiction style. And it really is just like, man, that's a really evocative way to kind of deliver a really strong idea, because you're having emotions about the fiction while you're reading it. You're having emotions about the design while you're reading it, and it's really easy to remember because it's a bunch of creepy stuff. So I'm thinking like that's probably something I want to dig into a little bit. So I'm probably going to make a Map Crow video about it eventually, and I want to draw the false Hydra. But yeah, one day. All things in due time. This is too small. I need to beef up these lines. I am drawing my lines too small. Oh, that's a big problem. That's a big no-no. Got to keep your line weight consistent. That's one of the biggest problems with digital art. Is inconsistent line weights. You zoom in and you make the line weight look good for wherever you're zoomed in, and then when you zoom out, it's like, oh, this is all wrong. But it's easy enough to fix in this case. Just some thicker outlines. I might get rid of some of these. I might erase some of these smaller lines. I'm not going to mess with it too much right now. Yeah, that's not bad. A lot of that grass is probably going to go bye-bye, but I want to draw the lake shore. And this is fun. This is why I wanted to do this project on a live stream, is like, you know, really thinking about like the lakes and the water and all of this kind of stuff with what are the associations with witches that we can play around with. It's like, it's a bunch of ideas that, you know, maybe I could have had it on my own, but it was more fun to have it with all of you wonderful folks. Ravir the Trader. We are drawing the Witch Isle of Sycorax. which is a place of power that has caused lots of consternation for the witch finders in the area, and that's why they've set up their watchtower citadel near to the banks of this lake to keep an eye on all the witchcraft activity in the area. So we have a petrified forest called the Column Grove that isn't drawn super finished. We have the Tanner's Keep, which is it's an order of knights that has fallen on hard times. So they go monster hunting and they tan the hides of these monsters and sell them. That's how they make their revenue, because this witch blighted land, this monster haunted land, is so poor for farming that that they don't make any money in taxes like knights normally would. And there's an old aqueduct nearby, and a mountain with beheaded statues on it, and a little village that has some ramshackle little cottages in it, and the cathedral in that town is very well kept and kind of oddly built like a fortress. So we're just kind of like building this little world setting piece by piece as we go. Just thinking about what the next cool thing to draw will be. So yeah, you're all caught up now. House DM. Live with MapCrow. I'm live with you. I'm the lucky one. Patty B Vids. I have not had a chance to play Daggerheart. I am. Oh, that's cool. So you're running Daggerheart with Roman. Oh, that's cool. Lots of things. The duality dice is probably the best so far. I am playing in some MCDM play tests, and I really enjoy being a part of that because I already know James, and like I have a strong feeling that this is heading in a direction I'm interested in. And I don't know that I have the brain space to keep up with the play tests for Daggerheart as well. So I'm going to wait until that one is finished. But I was listening to the Mastering Dungeons podcast with Teos Abadia and Sean. Oh no, this is embarrassing. What? I'm going to look it up. He's one of my favorite thinkers in the space. It starts with an M. Dungeons podcast, but they had a really wonderful episode on Sean Merwin. My goodness, they have their podcast also up on YouTube, if you like to see people's faces when they're talking about all this stuff. But they had a really wonderful episode all about Daggerheart, the playtest, and I thought it was fascinating, but it also kind of made me think, like, okay, I think I would rather wait until I can see the finished idea before I really start forming my opinions about it. But from what I've heard, it's a much more crunchy game than I was expecting. I was expecting something a lot closer to Alice is Missing, frankly, or something closer to like Fiasco, or like a purely collaborative story authorship platform. So the fact that it does seem so like mechanically rich is very interesting to me. But that also means that, like, okay, if it's going to be mechanically rich, then I want the final version of that. I have trouble enough keeping rules, as some in chat know. I actually don't memorize rules super well. I don't always do a great job keeping them all in my head. So I'm going to wait until that crystallizes a bit more. But I hope you're having fun, and I hope you're getting what you want out of that experience. And it sounds like you're running with some really cool folks. Okay. J. Newman, is this soft or hard lead? It is not lead. I really like designing RPGs. Perhaps we shall work together, Benjamin. Yeah, perhaps so. I now that I am a full-time professor, I don't have as much time to collaborate as I would like. But never say never. I would honestly like to collaborate more often than I do right now. But I have to turn down a lot of work because being a professor in a new game design and art program is a lot of work. I am having to write an awful lot of curriculum every week. And it's fun and it's rewarding, but it doesn't leave me with a whole lot of time to just twiddle my thumbs and wonder what I could be doing to be more busy and productive. Do 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 do. Yeah, Necron's player got there before I did. Some odd goings at that chapel. The devious deviants in there, I'll bet. Yes, I think you're probably right. JP. JP. My man, JP. JP knows all my secrets. You can only juggle so much. So many flaming bowling pins. What a colorful metaphor that feels frighteningly accurate. Flaming bowling ball pins, bowling pins. My goodness. All right, let's zoom out. This is looking pretty good. I'll probably put some more marshy stuff in here eventually to kind of like tie it in. But you know, just getting in the coastlands and kind of like getting the ideas. Maybe I'll put in a little bit of a reflection here, just because I have the room. And by reflection, I mean a few scribbles. That's all you need. Let's see here. Yeah, that's good. I would add more down here, but it would just get too busy with all like the marshy pits of all the marshy grasslands and everything. So don't want to overwork it. Oh. Yes, good. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Sometimes I don't enjoy. I wonder why anybody would want to watch drawing just a bunch of squiggly lines and stuff like that, but I don't know. There's more to do here. There's cool people to talk to, cool things to talk about. Sometimes I think I should be doing more of this sort of like busy work off stream, but it's like, no, this is what it is. And if one of the things I want to do with these streams and with my videos is make art more transparent and like so people can see what it's like, then a lot of artwork is busy work. So you may as well get used to that idea. And if you would rather see more stimulating things, I don't know that drawing a windmill instead of a coastline is really going to change all that. Let's see here. End of the semester might be a flaming bowling ball. Oh, it definitely feels like it. Church of Doom. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. No reflections needed. If you just say it's all duckweed in there, yeah. Patty B vids. It's inspiring for me to try to draw my own scribbles. So it has. It's inspiring me to try to draw my own scribbles. So it has value to me. Oh, right on. Cool. I feel I perform better when people are watching me make art. Yeah, I mean that can be true. Like sometimes it's just certain circumstances are going to dial you in more. That's like for a long time. That's one of the reasons why I would work with traditional media, is not just because working with digital media was expensive. That's an easy problem to solve. Just save up some money. But also, it's just like it kept me more engaged because it's like I knew I couldn't erase this micron mark, so I was just like more. I was doing a better job with it because I was more nervous about it, but I wasn't nervous to the point that it was paralyzing me. I was nervous to the point that I was interested. There was a tension there. I was like, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be able to make this good? It's fun. As Vincent and Meg Baker say, we play to find out what happens, and sometimes I like to draw to find out what happens. Chill co-working streams are the best. That's right. And it's like, if anything, it's sort of like it helps me kind of get through some of the drudgery in an interesting way. So it's like very selfish of me that way. But I've rarely been accused of not being selfish, so. I think that's one of the things. Okay, so I know I complain about this occasionally, but it's never stopped me before, so I don't see any reason it'll stop me now. So I found out a few weeks ago that I am what is being referred to as a dungeon tuber. I'm a dungeon tuber. I tube the dungeons. It's a YouTube people who talk about Dungeons and Dragons or dungeon tubers, right? And somebody I was talking with, a fellow dungeon tuber, was talking about how the meta has changed. And right now, it's like, it's really negative. It's like, it's all these, you're only getting clicks and views if you are making, hit pieces on wizards or putting, thumbnails with demon-eyed Matt Mercer on your videos or whatever, right? And I think that's pretty true. I think that has changed. I have noticed a significant drop off. Like at this point, a while ago, I was on my way to 100K subscribers on the channel. Mind you, I never thought I would get 10,000. So I'm still very happy with what I have, and surprised, frankly. But I think, not only is it possible that, the pandemic bubble has burst and not as many people have as much time for Dungeons and Dragons or interest in engaging with it on YouTube and stuff like that. But they're just, you kind of have to accept at a certain point, whatever you're talking about, there's a niche of a niche, right? It's a subculture of a subculture. Map makers for role-playing games. And there's a finite number of people who are going to find that interesting. And it's only a problem if I wanted to make a living from YouTube ads and sponsorships. Is this looking good? Yeah, this is good. I need to match these up a little bit. I need to make sure that these angles are matching as we transition over here. Because because it's getting a little shaggy over here. The angle's not quite looking right. But yeah, I'm not on this platform to make the numbers go up. That's fun. That's a neat side effect of being on YouTube.com making videos about Dungeons and Dragons. But I'm mostly here because whatever YouTube is, and it's a lot of things, and not all of them are great, it is certainly the greatest tool I have ever seen for making art more transparent and more accessible. And that mission statement hasn't changed, whatever the dungeon tubing meta might be or not be anymore. And it just delights me to no end that there are any people at all who want to watch this kind of stuff and talk about it with me. It is a rare joy that I never saw coming. Life is full of surprises. Life is some of them good, some of them bad. So celebrate the good ones. And I guess this is my way of sheepishly celebrating all of you in chat with me today. So thanks for being here, everybody. I'm not going anywhere. That sounded like a sign off, but it's not. I'm still going to draw a lot of squiggly lines. Don't worry. You won't believe what Matt Mercer just said. Yeah. I hate that stuff. I think it's a bad idea. I think you will strengthen your platform, but you will build it on the backs of people who are only interested in drama and will be just as interested when something is said about you, when you do something wrong. When you build your platform off of drama, you are training your audience exactly how to treat you when you step out of line. Seems like a bad idea. I don't know. Seems like a bad idea. Especially when there's so many squiggly lines that haven't been drawn yet, right? What's with all this drama? There's squiggly lines to be drawn. For goodness sake. Get your priorities straight, Dungeon Tube. Not bad. Not bad. I think I want to draw some mist, like a misty cloud that's surrounding the witching Isle of Sycorax. That's probably the next thing I'll do. I'm going to stretch out for a second. Patty B, you really are in the MCDM. If you're talking about tubes, you really know. Drinking the Kool-Aid. My goodness. The thing that most excites me right now about the MCDM RPG is all of this talk about the encounter sheet. That's really exciting. There's probably a recent episode of Matt's stream where he talks about it and shows off a page. That's really cool. And then if James Intercasso is going to write really strong rules for encounter design that are based around objectives and set pieces, like that is a gift to all games. That is something that I'm sure is going to be adaptable. And so who knows? It's still early days. They might get into it and it might not work out. That's just the nature of playtesting. But man, maybe I have ridiculously high hopes. Maybe I'm just setting myself up to be disappointed. But I don't know. It's a pretty good track record from these folks. MacPro sacrifices real crow to gain followers. You won't believe what happens next. There's a reason we're called murders. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Stretch breaks means Lofi update, right? Lofi is sleeping upstairs. Lofi is one chill cat. She's doing great. I've been taking lots of stress naps recently, and she is all about it. For a long time, I think I'm finally adjusted enough to her allergens or whatever that I can now she sleeps next to my head on the bed, and it just makes me so happy. I love having this big old chubby cat. Oh my goodness, we aren't worthy of cats. My goodness. Like, why is the bell clapper for that bell in the background a guy? Well, you'd have to ask Hieronymus Bosch. It's from a painting, for one of my favorite painters. And I was looking for a bell icon, and I was just like, I wonder if Bosch. He also drew the painting. He painted the Garden of Earthly Delights, which is also in the background of the stream overlay. So, just tying it all in. Patty B says, as someone trying to learn to draw, it's been amazing. Nerfforge just had a video about the first 100 hours of drawing with someone's guidance from fundamentals, with so many circles. Yeah, that's really Nerdforge. Thank you. That sounds really cool. JP Couvert also has some really great intro tutorials for drawing, and it's super good. And basically, I think his central point of, like, if you can write the alphabet with reasonable consistency, you have all the skills you need to draw. It's not that much different. I mean, there's sort of like, there's a difference between composing and drawing. So, like, if we take this in musical terms, writing a song isn't the same as playing a song. So JP's here. Yeah. I'm gonna brag on those videos all the time. They're so good. Oh yeah, Patty B Vids is saying, it's like, that's how I found you. Yeah. Heck yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I love hanging out in Matt Colville's streams. He's always talking about such interesting things. I constantly think, like, if my favorite artist, comic artist Jack Kirby, lived long enough to have art streams where he could just, like, talk about whatever movies he was watching, whatever he's working on, and what he thinks about the industry, that would have been so cool. And that's kind of how I think about watching Matt's streams and James's streams, for that matter, as well. Is just like, man, what a front row seat to kind of, like, just hear an interesting practitioner talk about at this particular point in history of the industry is super cool. All right. I need to draw things. Okay, I'm going to draw. So, speaking of mists, so I also have here on my my old map the Mind Eater mist. So this is how I generally like to draw mists. It's just kind of like a bunch of kind of like wavy hatch marks next to one another. Excuse me. This one is supposed to look like kind of like a creepy kind of like skull face jack-o'-lantern thing. So yeah, this is probably how I'm going to go about it. Now, I don't know if it's going to, don't look at the clown worm in the eyes. Do not, it's important. It's for your own safety that you do not look at the clown worm straight in the eyes. But we are we're gonna give this a shot with this mist right here. It might look a little overworked, but I think I'm gonna try to draw it in this isometric perspective. So kind of like this, sort of like this. I'm gonna draw it thicker than this, but I just want to see how this looks. I want to test this out first. If this looks like I drew waves poorly, then I won't do this. All right, let's turn off this isometric grid. Is this giving me what I want? I don't think so. I think it's too confusing. I think this pattern is not going to do what I want it to do, so I need to think of another way to go about this. I want there to be clouds. I want there to be hanging mist around here. How could I do that? Huh, okay. I'll think about that. Illuminaudio is asking, how do you feel about draw a box? I don't know what that is. I like how Patty is saying, I like how much they are trying new things, but happy to go back if it doesn't work. And getting to watch the sausages being made has been great. That's awesome. Procrastinaps with my cat are a joy. Absolutely. Wind Waker swirlies. Now, JP, I think you're on to something. Oh, yeah. Flick Silverpin's guides to whatever Flick Silverpins feels like writing is always great. Wind Waker swirly clouds. Okay. All right. Let's look it up. Wind Waker swirls. Yes. Okay. So Wind Waker kind of has this really interesting art style. It's very like animated. Here's a good example of them. Boom, right here. So they are kind of like these big cotton ball kind of shapes, but they almost always like start from like a spiral of some kind or something like that. Now, I don't know how that is going to play with the perspective, but I think it's a really strong start. Although I'm also looking at this from Wind Waker as well, and I like the looks of that a lot. This might actually be what I want, because it'll give me a really strong ellipse to draw, and that will fit into the perspective. I think this is probably the approach that I'm going to go for right here. So a little is this what you were talking about, or were you talking about JP? Were you talking about these? But either way, I'm glad you said something, because I think we've got it sorted now. Now I just need to draw a giant ellipse. But I have an ellipse tool. I don't need a stencil. Okay, all right. Now we're thinking. Now we're thinking with portals. Cool. I was talking about the evil smoke when the enemy dies. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so let's start by using a shape tool. And so the trick to drawing an ellipse in isometric perspective is it just kind of needs to sort of fit inside sort of like an even number of squares. So if I was to, yeah, here we go. So like this would be proper isometric. This would be proper isometric. It just needs to make sure that it's like it's as many squares long as it is wide, and that'll keep it in perspective. So I tell you what, let's do. Let's make this easy on ourselves. I'm all about easy. And the nice thing about vectors is I can reshape them at will. And then now that I have the actual shape that I need, I can just scale it up in ratio. And here we go. We have our basic stencil for our where the clouds are going to go and all that fun stuff. Okay. All right. I'm going to copy this and kind of make this go up like that. And then I'm going to take this one and make this a little bit smaller. So we kind of like get that sort of like almost like conical look to it. Yes, this will do nicely. So basically we've just created a cylinder with a tapered bottom. It's just like a very wide, shallow cylinder. And this is how we're going to draw these clouds. I'm just going to take both of these and I'm going to scoot them down a little bit. Yeah, just like that. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my map art error layer, and I'm going to, instead of bending my wrist, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and tilt the screen. And then I can come in here and do some big, scratchy, misty clouds. Yes, yes. And then down at the bottom, we can do kind of like some more kind of like nimbusy, kind of like fluffy clouds. Maybe. We'll see. If we turn... Oh, whoops. All right, let's rasterize these layers and let's flatten them so I can turn them on and off. All right, is this looking good? Let's also turn off the ISO grid. Yeah. It's too early to say, but I'm already encouraged by what I'm seeing. And we'll just have to work to make sure it looks complicated enough that it's not just a bunch of simple shapes. Okay. And then we'll switch over here because that's which way my wrist wants to turn. Yes, yes. Okay, and then once we get in here, we're going to get lots of weird overlaps, but we need to match the direction of this ellipse as we turn the corner here. Yeah. All right. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. We'll come back and change and kind of like get this going when right now I just need to get some shapes down and not worry so much about like undoing and getting the perfect shapes. I just need some shapes to have opinions about. React to it, you know? Okay, now I'm going to flip this all the way around because my wrist is up against this the tilted platform of the actual tablet, and I don't want to hurt my wrist. And for those who have seen my videos, I do in fact have one of those colored foam grip extenders on my stylus. Again, it's the only way. I would have had to shut down the stream a long time ago if I didn't. I just my wrist and my grip, my hand would hurt too much. I think it's probably a good idea for everybody to use these things, and not just wait until you have health problems to do it. Even you in your 20s, start treating yourself like an old man. And you won't need things like wrist surgery. Maybe. Who knows? I'm not a doctor. All right, I'm gonna get this other last part of the start of this cloud right here. And then we can see what we really have. Okay, so let's snap this back to the right angle. Let's turn off our template. That looks pretty good. That is what I want to see. So it's not perfect, it's not detailed, but I think this is a really promising direction. And again, if I spend all this time undoing and getting perfect lines this whole time, then that would have spent all that time before I knew it was good, right? Sort of like yeah, iterating fast with different ideas quickly, so you can see if it's working or not before you commit to drawing it perfectly and then find out it doesn't work. So yeah, you see, it looks even better from back here. When you zoom all the way out, it still like really says like, oh man, there's something really weird happening there. I like this a lot. JP, thank you so much for your help. Even though I went with a slightly different Wind Waker swirly cloud, this one works really well. Zero consistency. Hey, we're working on our map. Sam, yes, you're supposed to tilt your screen. You just hit the R key, Sam. It's not that hard. Yeah, drawing donut shapes is really tough, but that's why, you break it down. It's like I didn't draw a donut shape. I used the ellipse tool to make it right, and then I tilted the screen, and all I had to do was draw a couple of lines that basically matched the direction of that, right? So if you have this in your head that you need to draw this perfect donut every time, that's why people have French curves. That's why people have stencils. You kind of get in your basic shapes with your stencils or with your, in this case, the kind of guide layer that I made. And then you could break it down into smaller curves. You draw smaller curves all day, every day. You're not going to let a bunch of small curves boss you around, right? So, yeah, it's just break it down. Break it down into simpler shapes if it's getting you to wig out. Let's see here. I didn't realize how far behind my stream was until I switched my computer. Whoops, forgot YouTube. We'll pause it. Oh yeah, that'll happen. RSIs are no joke. That's right. Hey, you in your 20s. Check out your ergonomics right now. Good. I wonder if making the edges less spiky might make it look more like a cloud-like and less tornado-like. Ooh. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It does look a little too aggressive, and I think probably taking these spikes off of it will help it look a little bit more like a just sort of like a gentle swirling. I'll bet you're right, Sam. Sam, you're a strong artist, and I'm glad I know you. Yeah, and that does help. That helps take the aggression out of it. And then I'll probably add some more. I'll add some more of these fluffy clouds, kind of like mixed in with it and everything like that. So like probably like a big fluffy bit right here. And that'll also help it from seeming a little too aggressive. Because yeah, I don't want it to look like there's a constant tornado. I want it to look a bit more mysterious, a bit more ambiguous than that. looking good. Oh, man. This is fun. I always thought this would be fun, but I was nervous for a long time. I've wanted to stream for a long time. And I'm really, really glad that I finally just kind of like got over myself a little bit. And it was just like, let's invite people into the process. Let's do something fun and uncertain. You know, Bernard Suits defines game as a voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles, which is pretty great description of art making, too. Voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary images. Oh, yes. I can fix the line weight. I think there's probably going to be a lot of things that I'm going to want to adjust about this later. But for now, I just want to get the idea in pretty solid. I don't want a repeat of what happened over here to Column Grove, which is just like, I'm just not looking forward to drawing that. So I'm just, now it just looks like a bunch of sketchy trash cans. So I want to do a bit more tighter drawing than that. And then let's put some clouds up here in front. Yeah, looking good. Looking nice. I like that a lot. Oh, all right. Let's catch up here. I take umbrage with that. I've already had a joint and muscle pain for years. That's great. Didn't realize how far... Okay, we said that already. Heading off to bed. All right. Well, thanks for joining, Grizhoot. Have a good one. Everything in the swamp feels like it should look thick and slow. Yeah. And sleepy. I like that a lot. I should probably add some more reeds and stuff like that. How did you get into map making? Shaper asks. A lot of folks don't know this about me. Here's some lore. So I actually had a career as a comic artist. So I drew a web comic that was then collected by Oni Press into a graphic novel. And this was called, it was a fantasy comic called The Savage Beard of She-Dwarf. And it's a quest. It's a quest of the last dwarf in the world on a quest to discover what happened to her people. And it's got a guy named Musclehawk in it, and it's got this monster that has bears for hands in it. It's got a talking mouse. It's got an elf, a leprechaun, a little gerblin, and Kappa. It's all got all kinds of colorful characters. Here's a shork, an orc shark. So yeah, I drew this. It took me about 5 years to draw that, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I was drawing that off and on all the time while I had a full-time job, and I put a lot of work into this, and then I got really burnt out. Because a lot of bad stuff kept happening, and the book still had to come out because I had signed a publishing deal, and I got real tired of it. So I decided, you know what? And I had to draw all these people. I had to draw all these characters in all these different poses all the time. let's draw something that's just as characterful, that still has all this fantasy stuff that I like to draw in it, but let's draw stuff with no people in it. If I'm tired of drawing people and telling stories, then let's draw something with no people, and where the story is only implied. But if we look here, we can see, so like this would have been a splash page for the graphic novel. So, already really enjoyed drawing highly detailed backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. We actually see some very similar looking clouds to the ones we were just drawing right here at the top of the mountain here. So yeah, this was really fun to work on, but I was just like, I don't think comics is going to be it for me. I think I'm going to need to find something else to do. So I was like, well, maybe I could draw maps instead. And I just like, okay, well, it took me like 10 years to get into comics. I bet it's going to take me 5 years to get into drawing maps freelance. And it took me a month. So I launched a Kickstarter called Old Roads in 2021. And then I picked up a bunch of contracting work immediately after that, because the reason that it took me 10 years to get a graphic novel deal and get into, quote unquote, break into comics is because I wasn't very good and I was self-taught, and it took a long time for me to build those skills. But all the skills I had built as a storyteller and as a designer and as a cartoonist for the graphic novel were all still highly applicable to illustrating maps. So if we look at these maps, this is one of the first ones that I drew for the Eternal Night of Lockwood. This is a city map that is for a Zweihander campaign from Mick, or formerly published by Mick Millen. I don't know who's publishing it these days. But yeah, so I basically took all of my drawing habits and said, like, what if I tried my hardest to make these buildings and cranes and bridges as characterful and as exquisite as the characters and monsters and everything like that. Because everybody wants to draw characters and monsters and covers. And I thought, well, maybe there's less there's less competition in map drawing, and there is. and so yeah, when I kind of like hung up my shingle, I found a lot of contract work in maps immediately, and I've never really looked back. I really enjoy it, and I don't really miss drawing comics. But when I miss drawing monsters, I just start drawing monsters. There's nothing stopping me. But because it's not something that only makes sense when I have 124 sequential pages finished, I find it a much more rewarding, shorter loop. So I hope that answers your question, Shaper. Let's see here. It's Candy. Candy doesn't need a point. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Just downloading Clip Studio now. Yeah, it goes on sale pretty frequently, but it's a really solid drawing thing, and it's a lot cheaper than a Adobe subscription. All right, let's see here. I can't remember. Are you the guy who taught me about the buildings with one dark side and the rest is just edges? Probably. Yeah. So like if you're drawing like a small building, like if you're drawing a tiny little building, all you got to do is this. Right? Then there you go. You got a building. You just put a shadow on one side of the building. It gives you all the form, and yeah, honestly, it's not very many lines at all. It works really well for if you're drawing tiny little buildings on a big world map. So yeah. Let's see here. Also love the design on MapCrow. Thank you so much. How long have you been playing TTRPGs? Patty asks. I have been playing since... hold on. I can tell you exactly. I'm checking the publishing date on the first RPG I ever played. 1999. I've been running games since 1999. The first game I ever played is the Dragon Ball Z, the anime adventure game, published by R. Talsorian and written and designed by Mike Pondsmith of Cyberpunk 2020 fame. It's I want to do a MapCrow video about this and another game that I played in early high school. So yeah, I've been doing it for a while. Been doing it for a minute. Let's see here. Still need to get my copy of She-Dwarf signed. I'm you know where to find me. Oh, thank you for the recommendations, W.K. Henderson, if that is your real name. It's I put a lot of work into that book, and I hope the people that read it enjoy it. My one request is that if you read it and you enjoy it, that's great. Don't say to me, I finished it in one sitting. You likely will. It doesn't take that long to read. It took me 5 years to draw that, and through some of the hardest years of my life. And when people say, I finished it in one sitting, I'm like, maybe spread that out a little bit. It took a while to make. People mean it as it's one of the nice things about maps, right? Nobody has ever looked at my C map and said like, "Oh, I looked at your map the other day and I finished it in one sitting." What people say instead is like, "Oh, I keep looking at this map and I keep finding new details every time." It's a very different relationship to have with art, and I enjoy that a lot more. The hissing nunnery of Sarpedon. It's got all kinds of snakes and a big sundial, and it's fun. It's fun stuff. Imply this whole different relationship, and by saying, "Hey, this is for a game," it gives people something to do with it. It's not something that people, like or dislike. It's now something that's like, "Oh, does this fit my game?" There's something else to think about. It's a lot of fun. So yeah. Let's see here. This Ajax map is going to be so good. Heck yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Why is the dragon a dog, and why do I love it? Yes. So that is the wolf-bat dragon of Mount Grave, and it is a subtle nod to another animal dragon. Probably the greatest dragon design ever. My absolute favorite, Smaug, from the Rankin and Bass 1977 animated feature. What a design. Not a cowardly bone in the bodies of the designers at Rankin Bass. Just like astonishingly, just striking, memorable, iconic, beautiful, daring, inobvious, right? They're just to make like this cat-eared, fuzzy, furry dragon. Oh, so good. So yeah, I was just like, to me, dragons always have fur. It's the same reason that there's a kappa in She-Dwarf. It's because I grew up playing Final Fantasy 6. Though at the time it was called Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo. But there were kappas in that game. So to me, like all fantasy fiction had like little turtles that had like water coming out of their heads. Like, that was just normal. I didn't think anything of it. Didn't seem strange to me at all. Absolutely answers my question. Good deal. Heck yeah. Let's see here. I'm surprised most people start with D&D before branching into other systems. Oh yeah. Well, so Shaper, I was not allowed to play D&D. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home at the tail end of the Satanic Panic, when it really only was about like what video games I was allowed to play and what kind of stuff I was allowed to do. The Satanic Panic was about a lot of other things besides D&D, but so I could still play role-playing games, but it just couldn't be D&D. And I was watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami before the Frieza saga was finished. And it was just that cool. The brutality of comics. Yes. Zero Consistency says, you never know, Kyle. They could have stayed glued to the book for 3 nights and 3 days straight. Yeah, who knows? The design is very cat-like. Fluffy dragon best. Yeah, excellent, absolutely. Well, friends, we've been at this for 3 hours and 15 minutes. I think I am all drawn and talked out, and I have a long day ahead of me tomorrow. I am on the bargaining committee for my the new faculty union that started at my college. So that's a long day of talking to lawyers and reviewing language and having thoughtful debate with my colleagues. So I got to leave some gas in the tank. But this has been so much fun. And thank you all for keeping me company and chiming in and giving me some really fun ideas to play off of. This was so delightful. And over the summer, I'm probably going to do this a couple times a week when I'm not traveling for various things. So I hope to do this kind of thing more often, and also make actual videos again, because I miss doing that too. But this was wonderful. This was great, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all next time, my friend. All right.